December 3rd, 2024. In the Pokemon Auto Chess Discord, Wake Up DP and developer Curry start up a challenge. Be the first player to get first place in a ranked or quick play lobby using Octillery and Wild 9 synergy. The prize? Choosing the next Pokemon sprite to be commissioned and thereby added to the game. Very nice. So what exactly does this challenge entail? Winning a game with Octillery and Wild 9 synergy? Let me break it down to you and explain why this is actually quite a convoluted strategy and ultimately makes for a very fun challenge. Firstly, let's talk about Octillery. You might be asking yourself, why have I never seen this Pokemon used in Pokemon Auto Chess? Like seriously, out of 403 obtainable evolutionary lines, Remoraid and Octillery ranked 368th in terms of popularity, only ahead of a few lesser picked uniques and legendaries, ad picks from Pokemon item drafts, some regional variants, and the least popular evolutions. And if you consider that regional variants are essentially the same Pokemon and only separated as a subset as a result of their region, Octillery would actually rank even lower. Also consider that some of the Pokemon below Octillery's line are brand new from patch 5.8 and are already on pace of becoming more popular than it. So what makes this octopus so rare? Well, in order to obtain it, you need to find a Mantike in your unique portal. If you get literally any other unique Pokemon, you're out of luck. Add the fact that Mantine and Mantike aren't very strong and perform very poorly, people generally tend to avoid this Pokemon. Anyways, once you get your Mantike, you need to get your Water Synergy active. With Water Synergy active, we get Fishing Rods, which will add a Water Pokemon to your bench every round you face against another player. But with Mantike or Mantine active as part of your Water Synergy, you now have a flat 30% chance of fishing up a Remoraid instead of your usual Water Pokemon. Hit this 30% chance 3 times, and 3 Remoraids will evolve into Octillery. Octillery is not a bad Pokemon at all. It's not amazing, it's not going to win you the game single-handedly, but it's fine, it's usable. The issue is there are tons of other Water Pokemon that fulfill the same role as Octillery. And the Mantine or Mantike, not a very good Pokemon. Also consider that Octillery's 2 synergies are Water and Wild, 2 synergies that pretty much have 0 overlap. Wild tends to go vertical and wants to deal as much attack damage as possible. It has a very unique playstyle where you wouldn't want to add water to it, let alone pick up a Mantike as your unique. And water is more based around using their abilities. At least that's what the synergy incentivizes. With all this being said, this challenge is basically asking you to do a very specific strategy that, while not necessarily bad once you do have your team assembled, it is very specific and convoluted to achieve. And overall, it's something no one would ever actually try to do. So let's try to do it! Alright, attempt number 1. Admittedly, I have no idea what I'm doing, and after running a fairly strong normal team to start, I realized quickly, wait, how am I supposed to get the Mantike to appear in a portal? I'm also given the exact tools I need for an amazing Ghost Artificial comp, and I say to myself, let's put a rain check on this crazy Octillery comp. So I step into my artificial portal, and then... Wild 9 Octillery is happening, baby! We're gonna be completing this challenge on our very first try. We're fishing up our Remoraids, grab ourselves a beautiful shiny Octillery, thank you Ditto. We'll pivot into Wild, we're almost there. We're rolling down our money, making our Wild team as strong as possible. Let's mash that buy XP button, look at this, we're level 9. We've got a super strong Wild 9 team, look at all these evolutions. Everything is going exactly to plan, we're winning every battle. We just took down the player in first place and we're gonna do it again. We're gonna claim this Octillery Wild 9 win right away. This Wild team is amazing. They're just so strong and but you know what? That was a very commendable first try. I'm feeling good about this challenge and I give it another try right away. And unfortunately, I didn't record the game. But I got it! There's no denying it, it says top 1, I have Wild 9 and an Octillery, challenge complete, video's done, right? Well, let's take a look at the end screen for this game. Right off the bat, there's only 7 players. Our 8th player either disconnected or left the game. Our poor 7th place player was running babies the entire game. They have a Ditto with a Wonder Box for some reason. They lost all their health super early. So early, in fact, they lost before the 6th place player, who was AFK the entire game. And then we have the 5th place player, who actually started off super strong. They were win streaking early, they had a super strong early team, but suddenly they just stopped playing and went AFK as well. The rest of the players were active. I did have to overcome a fairly strong fire team, and I did single-handedly take them down from 100 health, but to say this was an earned win would be quite disingenuous. I'm not satisfied saying challenge complete until I do this properly in an 8-player game. So let's move on to... Let's get into this water flying portal, and there's no Mantike. No Mantike. But this happened. No Mantike. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so back. We've got our Mantike. We're fishing up Remoraid's, and we're gonna make this Wonder Box real quick. Just give it a second. The game's being a little bit slow right now. Anytime now. Maybe a quick refresh. No Mantike. Thanks for stealing my baby portals, you gamers! Alright, there's my one baby portal, but let me guess, this guy's gonna steal it from me. Yup, they're gonna steal it from me. Let's get this water flying one. But looks like we're probably gonna have to play another game. And ladies and gentlemen, we are so back. There's a Mantike. We're gonna evolve ourselves an Octillery. We're level 9 now. Let's throw in our 9 wild Pokemon. Fast forward a bit, we got a Blood Moon Ursaluna. Let's take down this stinky dragon player. Yeah, this is for stealing my portal. I can't believe I'm actually gonna be doing this challenge for real this time, and... Oh, I just lost. No Mantike. Well, look who decided to show up. Is this finally happening? Fast forward a bit, look at this, we're 1 win away, and we're also 1 loss away. It's really coming down to the wire. We got a duel between our legendary Pokemon. Come on, Suicune, let's go. Come on, just take it down. 1 more hit. Come on. Oh no, 1 more hit, 1 more hit. Were you expecting me to say no Mantike? We're not doing that one this time. I got a new one. It's called No Remoraid. And then we lose immediately and get 4th place. Also, there wasn't even 8 players this game. No Mantike. Are you guys getting sick of this music yet? I'm not. Hit it! Also guys, did you notice that I changed Numel into an Octillery a few games ago? Yeah. Anyways, let's get on to attempt number 16. The biggest limiting factor in winning this challenge is getting that Mantike. So during these early stages, let's talk about what the best method to get Mantike is. Mantike has Water, Baby, and Flying synergy. So during the unique portal carousel, we want to enter a portal with one of those 3 symbols. However, there are 10 different water uniques that can appear, as well as 14 different flying uniques. The odds of getting Mantike from a water or flying symbol is very, very low. Your best bet is to go with a baby symbol, which gives us a 1 in 3 chance of having the baby symbol be a Mantike. So for our Gyarados round, we want to have 3 babies in play. However, babies are notoriously weak, and Gyarados could very easily beat a baby team. So we'll definitely want to have some good supporting Pokemon and items to make sure we don't lose to Gyarados and miss out on a very important item component. In order to fish for Remoraids with our Mantike, we want to have Water synergy active. And in order to do a hard pivot into Wild synergy, we want to have as much money as we can. We're also very likely to lose some rounds in the mid game with that Mantine. That's pretty much guaranteed to happen when you do a very hard pivot. With all this being said, I like to do one of 2 things. Either win streak hard with a strong water team, making as much money as we can off of our fishing, while also having 3 babies at the ready for Gyarados, or if I can get 3 babies early on, do a lose streak with babies and make lots of money off of eggs, or potentially find a Tepeg egg to make that transition into Wild easier while also providing us with a very strong late game Wild Pokemon. For our item pickups, I'm focusing mostly on attack speed and attack damage, so magnets and charcoals, as those stats are generally what's most important for wild synergy. During our item carousel, I would like to pick up a Never Melt Ice to make an early amulet coin. It does get taken, but I'm okay with picking up a second charcoal. By round 4, I don't really have anything amazing. I am working with a wild synergy, and I decide to go with a strong early game normal synergy. And even though the goal is to eventually get to wild 9, getting an early wild start is actually not that helpful, because early wild Pokemon are not very good, and they certainly don't hold up late game. But for now, we've gone up to level 4, and we'll see how well this normal wild team does. Unfortunately, our first opponent has 2 evolved Pokemon, as well as that super strong early grass synergy. Generally, you don't want to put items on a Skiploom, but that Skiploom is very strong with those items, and that is not a very good start. However, the next round in the Pokemon item draft, I'm able to pick up a Never Melt Ice, alongside a Dewpider who has water synergy, and my shop provides me with Horsey and some pears. I really like Horsey as an early game carry, so I'm going to make that switch over to water synergy. And with water synergy, I'll hopefully be able to pick up some additional Pokemon through fishing that could provide me with more money or possibly some earlier evolutions. I made the mistake of throwing a charcoal on that Igglybuff. I do want to keep it because it's a baby, but I also want to put the charcoal on the Horsey. Ultimately, I decide to sell it, but hopefully that will just help my Horsey make money even faster and get my income up. But in our next battle, we're dealing with yet another grass synergy team, and they already have an evolved Grovyle. With a single gold pickup from our Horsey, I'm forced to sell my benched Mudkip in order to hit 20 money and get that 2 interest bump. Next round, I fish up a Piplup, and while I would like to use it, it's actually more useful to me as guaranteed 30 money, so I sell it. Our next battle also does not look good. We're against a team with 2 evolutions, an active Ghost synergy, and it doesn't take long for our team to get taken down, but it's nice to have our Horsey pick up some extra gold. But at this point, our loss streak is starting to rack up, and we're starting to make lots of money off of it. Obviously not the best start we could have, as we're losing a lot of health for it, and we're facing yet another scary team. Seems like everyone we've been facing has had a good start. Next round, I pick up a Binacle, alongside another Never Melt Ice. I'm also level 5 now, and it happens to be my strongest Pokemon. And since I already have 50 money, I decide to just throw it in and just try to mitigate as much health loss as possible. We're also approaching Gyarados, and I need those 3 babies, so I do roll the shop once with my extra gold. I find an Igglybuff in the shop, which I can purchase if I sell my second Dewpider. But now I realize that if I can find a Pichu in the shop, I can actually run Baby 3 Water 3. So I sell off my Binacle, and I do find the Pichu. So now I'm pretty much guaranteed gonna lose this round and keep that loss streak alive. And I now also have the potential of getting some baby eggs for extra economy, or maybe even finding a Tepig. So we'll face off against the player who's tied for last place, and they have an evolved Shelgon and a strong Dragon Fire team. Seems like everyone except for me has found a strong early evolution, but whatever, we're doing a loss streak. We also have Gyarados coming up right after, and I know my team currently won't be able to beat Gyarados. So right now, I decide to make a Pokédoll. Not the best item for a late game wild team, but not the worst, and it's certainly going to help us against Gyarados. It's our preparation round for Gyarados, and we definitely need to make our team stronger. Firstly, I pick up a Magby, who is a slightly stronger baby than Igglybuff. I also pick up the tanky Psyduck, who will take Dewpider's place. And after a few shop rolls, I'm able to evolve my Horsey into Seadra, as well as upgrade my Pichu into the baby Pokemon Elekid. I think this team will be strong enough to beat Gyarados. I'll throw the Pokédoll on our Psyduck. For defeating Gyarados, I like to put my frontline Pokemon on the middle left and my backline Pokemon on the right. Gyarados' ability does tons of damage, and it hits its main target as well as anything behind it. So this way, our Seadra will hopefully not be caught in the crossfire. And yeah, with the Pokédoll on our Psyduck and the evolved Seadra, the Gyarados goes down no problem at all. During Carousel, I see the baby portal, but it also has a grass symbol and a fire symbol, and I know people are playing with those synergies, so I'm really hoping it doesn't get stolen. Thankfully, it's headed our way, and we pick it up no problem. We also have an awesome shop and evolve our Psyduck into Golduck. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to do that again. Sorry about that theatrical intro. But yeah, we now have a Mantike, who is a baby Pokemon. It's not very strong when it's unevolved, so we're kind of incentivized to keep going for a baby egg. We don't really have the health to be able to do this for too long, but unfortunately we don't really have another choice right now. Thankfully, Golduck and Seadra are pretty strong at this point in the game, and I actually wouldn't mind winning, so I decide to level up to level 6. I throw in a fairly strong Golurk I picked up from the shop. That gives me Artificial 2 synergy, as well as a Swift Wing. Swift Wing gives its holder attack speed, dodge chance, as well as flying synergy. This gives me Flying 2 synergy, making our Seadra able to run away once it gets to low health. And I also give it a Shell Bell, which will hopefully eventually help a frontline wild Pokemon. With all these upgrades that I've made to the team, we're facing off a decent flying team. They have a very scary Togetic which can provide a lot of healing to its team, but our team makes quick work against the rest of our opponent's Pokemon, and without any good single target damage, our Golduck is able to give itself more shield than our opponent can deal damage, and this kind of creates a stalemate situation. The round timer ticks down, and after a certain point, all Pokemon are enraged, doubling everything's damage and having shield generation. Once that happens, our Golduck finally goes down. Next round, I pick up a Magnet and a Misdreavus. I'm also lucky to get a Remoraid right away. I will pretend to not see the shop with 3 baby Pokemon trying to tempt me. I do not have enough health to pursue a Golden Egg comfortably. So let's evolve the Mantike into Mantine by putting it beside the Remoraid. Mantine is actually not too bad. It's got some pretty decent bulk, and its ability is extremely mobile, which can cause a lot of problems with your opponent's Pokemon targeting. And at 60 health, I really want to keep my health as high as I can. With our Mantike evolved into Mantine, we're going to completely abandon Baby 3 synergy. Just kidding, I'm addicted to gambling. Let's get an egg, guys, let's do it! I'm so sorry everyone, even I am disappointed watching this video back. We're facing off against a wild normal team, but keep an eye on that Golduck who's just giving itself so many shields. Golduck has a very interesting property where it can confuse itself, but by doing so, it becomes stronger. Like, way to stumble upwards, my guy. And as my opponent's entire team tries to focus down that Golduck with all their efforts, Seadra, Mantine, even the Elekid do tons of damage back, and we win, even with Baby 3 active. Anyways, here's an item component carousel. Being in second last place, I'm able to pick up a Charcoal. And we also fish up a second Remoraid, that's 2 in a row, very lucky. And now I will actually abandon the baby synergy. I'll also go below 50 money to hit level 7, I really want a win streak now. We're using our Remoraid, Golurk, and we'll also throw in Totodile, who's a decent waterfront line. We'll make a Punching Glove for the Seadra, and give the Swift Wing to the Golduck, as well as a Mystic Water component. Being an ability-based tank, we wanted to use its ability as often as possible. We'll face off against a very strong Grass team. They have Grass 7 synergy active, as well as an absolute cannon in Carnivine. And while it seems like our team is able to match our opponent's damage, their entire team is constantly healing from Grass synergy. The only one that's able to match that is Golduck, and the rest of our team gets focused down very quickly. But check this out, 3 Remoraids in a row gets us Octillery. It has a ridiculously high attack stat, as well as 3 range, and since we're not dealing with any dragons, it's a straight up upgrade to our Seadra. It should definitely be able to get us more gold from that amulet coin. And with our Octillery obtained, as well as a non-player round coming up, we can think about our transition into Wild Synergy. Let's talk about Wild Synergy finally. Pokemon with Wild Synergy will only show up in the shop during non-player rounds at a rate of 5% chance, and that percentage chance is increased by the number of stars, and that means evolution level, of all of your currently active wild Pokemon. And this bonus actually carries to all rounds of the game. So our team right now only has 2 stars from that wild Octillery. That's a 2% chance of finding wild Pokemon in the shop, or a 7% chance during non-player rounds. Also, that was an awesome win. Everyone still alive on our team has like a sliver of health. But anyways, here is a non-player round, and we fish up another Remoraid. We already have Octillery, but we can at least use it to increase odds of finding wild Pokemon in the shop. So right now we have 3 stars worth of wild Pokemon on our team. That gives us an 8% chance of finding a wild Pokemon in the shop. We also evolve ourselves a Croconaw. Since it's a non-player round, we want to roll as much as we can to find and use as many wild Pokemon as we can. We can pick up a Bidoof, now that's a 9% chance of finding wilds. This Zigzagoon is going to bring us to 10. We'll also pick up a Ditto. Finally, we'll pick up a Spinarak. Spinarak is actually pretty bad. You really only want to use it in wild teams if you have a Pinsir. So while we face off Mewtwo and Mew, I do some bench management and sell it back. And we were able to find a bunch of wild Pokemon and end the round at 50 money. Next item component, I grab a magnet. And while I do really want to evolve a lot of my Pokemon, since we're no longer in a non-player round, our percent chance of finding wild Pokemon has gone down by 5, and it's better to focus my money on experience points. We do need to hit level 9 after all, if we're trying to get wild 9. And yeah, I did roll the shop once, but that's just impatience and a mistake. And we'll face off against a ghost team. Even though we don't have a fluffy tail, our opponent's curses are sort of spread awkwardly across our team. Our Mantine is protecting our Golduck from the defense curse, and the Octillery is able to power through that paralysis. It's still somehow leading the team in damage, and it's able to bring us to victory. And now we pick up our 5th Remoraid in a row. That's absolutely insane. We buy a Phanpy from the shop, bringing us to Wild Force Energy. That's going to give our Octillery even more damage. And I now realize I never actually talked about what Wild Synergy does. It gives a big percentage increase in attack damage as well as movement speed. It allows one ranged wild Pokemon to close in on their enemies super quickly. At Wild 9, they'll activate that end of round enrage status 5 seconds sooner, but honestly, I don't think I've actually ever seen that before. Late game wild teams are basically glass cannons. They kill everything instantly or just die. But here we're facing against that ground player in first place. They're already level 8, and despite the nerfs, ground is still a pretty reliable synergy. They're able to take us down pretty quickly, and with that loss, our health is really not looking great. For the final component carousel, I'll pick up a magnet. For the first time, we finally fish up something that isn't a Remoraid, but with our magnet, we can make X-ray vision for that Octillery, giving it 50% extra attack speed, as well as guaranteed accuracy. That's useful against the ghost player. It's time to take on some dragons. And if you're wondering why Zigzagoon has an Ice Stone, Zigzagoon has a pretty interesting property where it picks up a random item at the start of every battle, as long as it's not holding anything. And yeah, overall this fight goes very well. Our Octillery once again doing tons of damage. It does fall off a little bit late game, but considering how early we got it and the items that it's holding, it really is doing us wonders, and we'll win this round. At this round, we are now level 8. There's a Happiny in the shop, which is a pretty good late game tank. I decided to just throw it in temporarily. When playing wild, it's best to play patiently with your money. You really do want to make use of that 5% wild bonus during non-player rounds. And even though I've done some impatient shop rerolls, I'm gonna hold on to the rest of my money for that upcoming Lugia and Ho-Oh round. We're up against the flying team. Their Togetic gave us trouble in the past, and now they have 2 of them. But we've got a 2 Pokemon advantage this time, and our Octillery has already taken down 2 of our opponents. Once again, it's coming down to our Golduck. It's scaling and shielding, becoming quickly uncontrollable. Mantine also holds on long enough to deal tons of damage. Well, not tons of damage, but adequate damage. And check it out, the unkillable Golduck Menace, this time with no Togetics to support. Even with the nerfs to shielding, you cannot take this thing down, and in the end, it's our Golduck who comes out on top. Alright, this round we evolve a second Octillery. We can definitely use it to find some more wild Pokemon in the shop. We're going to be doing tons of rolling this round, and it doesn't take long to find the first evolution of this round in Linoone. Well, technically it's the second if you count the Octillery. Also, it's a lot of APM and a bit of multitasking, but I'm trying to swap out non-wild Pokemon with wild Pokemon as I find them, just to maximize our shop odds. I am by no means a perfect player, so I do miss a few in the shop, bear with me. But I'm pretty good about not missing the strong ones like Teddiursa. It's also finally time to start selling off our non-wild Pokemon. Thank you so much for your service, Golduck, Mantine, Croconaw. But as we continue to roll the shop, we get a Lycanroc. And as we take down Lugia and Ho-Oh, I'll lock a Poochyena in the shop. Another wild Pokemon I obtained this round was Darumaka. We've got our legendary portals here, tons of wild symbols. I'm able to make the trek all the way to the portal with 2 wild symbols. It doesn't really matter that much as all the wild legendaries are pretty much the same thing. But I guess if I had to choose, I would want Entei as it has Fire Synergy. Very much unimpactful, but I can hit Fire 2 Synergy, giving Entei and Darumaka burn chance on their attacks. I also used 2 Dittos to evolve Teddiursa into Ursaring. Entei will take the place of Octillery number 2. It sells for 10 whole gold, which is quite nice. Remoraid sell for 3 each, so selling an Octillery for 10 is actually 1 extra money. And we also sold Mantine for 15 money. So technically Mantine's earned us 25 money. That's awesome. Anyways, we evolve Phampi into Donphan. We've basically completely pivoted into Wild, and it won't take us long to get to level 9. We do have 50 money in the bank. So I'm pretty confident in being able to get to Wild 9 with the Octillery. The question is, can we get first place? We still have all of our opponents to worry about, including that player in first place with 100 health. Our first battle with a fully Wild team is against another player with Wild synergy. However, ours is much stronger, and it looks like our opponent forgot to use their legendary or something. And with 8 Wild Pokemon active, the weather will now be Blood Moon. If a Blood Moon is active, it increases physical damage sources by 20%, and the wound status lasts 30% longer. And now I'm realizing I never explained what wounding is. Wild Pokemon have a 25% chance of wounding their targets. That's a status that prevents the wounded Pokemon from healing. Alright, my goal now, aside from surviving, is to hit level 9. Wild 9 is a huge spike in damage for Wild Synergy, and while I could just dump all my money into experience and hit level 9, I know from previous experience that if I want to win, I do have to play a little bit greedy and truly make my team as strong as I can. So we'll hold off on spending for as long as we can. We'll see if we can make it to another non-player round to roll it down. For now, we'll rock Wild 8 with this newly acquired Patrat. We'll face off against that grass team with the Carnivine. We've got the Blood Moon activated, and good luck healing through this damage. It is a little bit closer than I like, but we do win it. Ursaring is super strong, and it's also pretty tanky from its Shell Bell and Pokédoll. I forgot to mention that I gave Entei a Stardust and Fluffy Tail. Not the best items for Wild, but it's what I had on hand. We've got an item carousel here. The only item that's truly great for me is the Red Orb, but the Choice Scarf is also pretty good. However, somehow I am now in second place, and the Red Orb gets taken. I should probably get that Choice Scarf, but for some reason I pick up the Wide Lens. Its main use is giving its holder +2 range, and you can turn a melee Pokemon into a ranged Pokemon. It's not the most useful in Wild, as Wild Pokemon have increased movement speed, but I guess it can help with positioning, and it helps ensure that one of your strong attack damage dealing Pokemon stay in the back, just giving it a bit of extra survivability. I don't have a great candidate for it, but I end up putting it on the Entei. We'll face off against a monster comp, which is not a very good late game team, especially with the misused Mewtwo. And it's pretty awesome, Octillery is still leading the charge. I mean, it does have really good carry items, but that's just awesome to see. I mean, I've changed my player into Octillery. This video is about Octillery. My whole life the last few days has been Octillery. Alright, things are really starting to look up for us, but I know I'll be facing that Shaman player soon. So this round, I decide to level up to level 9. I do sit at 30 money, and we have good reason to not spend everything right away. It's usually very hard to fully evolve a late game 5-cost Pokemon, but with good economy and the increased chance for wild Pokemon to appear in the shop, evolving Teddy Ursa all the way to Ursaluna is actually not too difficult. But for now, let's face off the scary ground team. We're hoping to take them out before their ground scaling gets to activate all the way. And remember when I said Fire 2 Burn is useless? Well, it actually ended up being exactly what we needed to take down that Gliscor before it could start to heal up. And overall, the battle goes very well for us. We more than double our opponent's damage. You love to see it. We're finally ending that player's 23-round win streak. We've got a non-player round here, and as Wild, it's time to finally spend down our money. We can pretty much expect a wild Pokemon to show up every shop roll. We've evolved ourselves a Darmanitan, and then we evolve Patrat into Watchog. We can get a Mightyena, but we're not really rolling with Darks, and there are better 4-cost Pokemon. For example, here's a Primeape. We will end this round on 10 money, taking down the legendary birds. And as a reward, we get a Flame Orb, the perfect item for our Ursaring. Flame Orb burns its holder, but also doubles their attack stat. This is the perfect item for our Glass Cannon Wild team. Especially with that Shell Bell, it's going to be able to heal up all the damage it takes from its burns. We can definitely afford to roll down our money, but we can also afford to hold on to that money and rebuild some of that lost interest. We definitely have enough health to support one more loss, so I don't feel bad doing this, especially knowing how easily we've been taking down our opponents. Here's that wannabe Wild team. They don't have an Octillery, they can't beat us. It doesn't take long for this team to take down our opponent, and for the first time, our Octillery is going to be taking the bronze medal in the damage charts. And check out this beautiful shop. Very exciting to see this. No reason to buy right away, but this brings us really close to that fully evolved Ursaluna. And Ursaluna can actually evolve even further into Blood Moon Ursaluna if it's able to be in a round where the weather is Blood Moon. Now, currently our opponents have been able to override that weather with Windy and Sandstorm. But if we're able to get Ursaluna by that non-player round, we'll be able to get the Blood Moon weather then, and that will be giving us the Ursaluna Blood Moon. Once again, we'll be facing off against that ground team. Looks like our opponent was able to get a fully evolved Flygon, but that's not enough to beat us. That new Zygarde Pokemon in the back is raining green arrows on our team, but it's not enough to slow us down. Back when I was playing this game, this is post-commentary of course, my entire body was like numb in excitement, because right now, it's really looking like this team is unstoppable. Alright, we've got an item carousel with lots of great items, but the best one is the Gracidia Flower. It grants its holder as well as adjacent allies bonus attack speed. Lots of great uses for this item, but I really want that buff to be active on the Ursaring. So we'll throw it on the frontline Darmanitan and slot him in between our two strongest frontline Pokemon. We'll take on that ground team yet again. We already know what's gonna happen. Hope it's not too repetitive, but for my sake, I hope it is. Another easy win, and look at Darmanitan, it's so weird, it just like hides away when it gets low health. That's just a thing it does. Don't worry about it. Alright, we've got over 50 money to spend and we just need 2 Teddy Ursas to fully evolve that Ursaluna. And wow, that did not take long at all. Look at that giant bear. And remember what I said? If the weather is Blood Moon, it's gonna become even more deadly than it already is. Our team is pretty much fully evolved except for that Primeape. Another interesting mechanic where it needs to die 10 times. Anyways, we have our Blood Moon Ursaluna. It has 118 attack. We'll pick up a Muscle Band as our item. We could get Psychic 2 synergy, but honestly, a little bit of extra attack speed never hurts. At this point, there really isn't much we can do to improve our team. We've got 50 money, but not really anything to spend it on. I guess what we could do is go for a Dodrio. That could maybe be a slight improvement to another Pokemon. But really, it seems like all we've got to do is wait it out and hope that our opponent doesn't pull off some kind of miracle. For fun, let's keep a close eye on this Blood Moon Ursaluna. Just kidding, it turned back into a regular Ursaluna. I didn't actually realize it could de-evolve. Doesn't matter though, as it's doing just too much damage for our opponent to handle. It's just plowing through our opponent's ground team. With that Ursaluna, we're more than doubling our opponent's damage output. This round, I'm able to evolve that Dodrio. Again, not sure if this is useful or not. Looking back, maybe I should use it in place of the Donphan instead of the Watchog, just to see if removing that ground synergy would incentivize a Blood Moon over the Sandstorm. But I don't think it matters. Let's just cut forward to the battle. And here we go. Let's see if that Dodrio does anything. It does seem to be doing tons of damage, but it actually ends up being Darmanitan who comes out on top. Also, look at this shop. There's 4 Raltses in it. Alright, looking at my opponent, I figured out something I can do with my money. Since the shop pools are limited and all players are buying from the same shop, I'm gonna buy as many Rhyhorns from the shop as I can to stop my opponent from getting them. Because if I monopolize the remaining Rhyhorns, they won't be able to evolve a Rhyperior. I'll also pick up some Onyxes because that's something else they could pursue. But yeah, just bench whatever could be useful to my opponent. But here we go, it's the final battle. Our opponent has changed their Zygarde form. I didn't even know that was a thing you could do. They've also got a Camerupt now, and what the heck is that damage coming from the Camerupt? Have they actually pulled off the miracle and denied me this win? It actually almost wipes out our entire team, but in the end, that Ursaluna is doing Ursaluna things with that Flame Orb and its Shell Bell, and in the end, Entei sweeps in for the kill, and ladies and gentlemen, we have done it. It took 16 attempts, but it's finally done. First place in a true 8-player game, Octillery Wild 9 is finally done. I am now satisfied, and I will happily accept the prize of this challenge, my choice of the next sprite and addition to the game. The development team and spriters have done a fantastic job of already having so many great Pokemon in the game. I really did have to browse through the Pokedex to find what I wanted to add, and I think I have found the perfect little guy, Skrelp. Look at this little freak. In the future, when you win a game using Skrelp, you'll think of me and my Octillery. A huge thanks to Wake Up DP and Curry for whipping up this challenge, and also a huge thanks to all of you for watching my videos. This one obviously took a lot more time and effort, but honestly, it's some of the most fun I've ever had playing this game, even if I did lose my mind in the process. And with that, I don't think there's anything else to say. I'll see ya in the next game. As for me, I'm gonna go rest my voice. I don't have any vocal training and it's definitely feeling a little hoarse.